There are three things that I preach on this channel quite a bit. Those things are creativity, imagination, and practice. Now, this image right here is very special to me because it has a lot of creativity and a lot of imagination in it. I don't know if you can tell what I base this off of. It is this right here. It's a very common image if you follow my page, and you probably don't. I do a lot of these xenomorphs. But this one, I was trying to do some freestyling with it. I don't know if you've ever tried gestural drawing before, where you just kind of put yourself in a different place and just go for it and see what you can come up with. And that's what I did here. This is very loosely based on the xenomorph image. I had a lot of fun painting this, especially up here in the neck region. I had a lot of fun doing the pattern. I was actually trying to imitate the look of marble in the lines, and it came out with a really super cool pattern. This was a whole bunch of happy accidents all in a row, and this picture hangs in my living room. I know it wouldn't hang in a lot of people's living rooms, but I like this picture quite a bit. So this video you're watching right now is going to have the video where I actually create this. So if you want to see me make this, just stay tuned. Now, I painted this picture about 2 years ago in my other studio, and I have to go back and remember how I did it. I purchased this canvas at a Goodwill. I brought it home and I sanded it and I covered it with gesso. You can see the gesso right here. I put a thin coat. I didn't need a whole bunch because I knew I was going to cover the painting anyway. Right now I'm using a black magic marker, and magic markers work great for these types of paintings. It's easier to use than a brush, and it's quicker, and I can do all kinds of things like thicken up my lines. I can be myself with a marker pen. So I'm doing the outlines, and I have a big influence in comic book art. So I'm using a lot of darks and a lot of thicks as in thick lines, to outline my drawing. Now this is a cool part here. I'm covering it with a light covering of green and yellow. I was just being really experimental with this. I did not have any idea how it was going to turn out, but it came out just fantastic. I love the two colors I used. Once I get that done, I go back over and I repaint part of the outlines. You're kind of thinking, why would you go and do that? That's nuts. That's insane. Well, the thing is, when you do this layer painting, the more layers you do, the better the painting looks. So right now I'm going over and blocking in color with kind of a medium blue-gray acrylic paint. I use this straight out of the tube. I bought a color I really like, and I just use it right out of the tube. And I'll show you why in a minute here, because I manipulate it a lot once I get it down. So I'm painting in all the nooks and all the crannies. That's what's fun about painting xenomorphs, because they're just full of nooks and crannies and little spots you can have fun with. This part here on the actual xenomorph is not that color. I didn't care. It's my own painting. I'm being creative. Here I am using a sponge or a paper towel to add some texture. Now, what I'm doing here is trying to emulate the look of marble. There's tutorials online to make your own marble designs. I thought, what if I make this thing look like it's made out of stone? That'd be kind of a cool concept. I don't know if I got that, but I tried. And now what I'm doing is using a thin down acrylic paint. It's kind of the same thing as using a 50% ink wash. And I'm going over and putting in shadows and shading. If you don't put the shading in, your highlights won't pop. So this is a very important step. You got to put your shading in. If you're going to copy what I'm doing, if you want to paint like I do, I would copy what I'm doing here. So now I'm putting in my first layer of highlights. I add a little bit of white to the gray to go over the areas where I put the shading in to make that pop. And I will go over it again and again and again, probably at least 3 or 4 times. Because every time I go over it, it adds a layer. And sometimes I'll even take my ink wash and go over what I just painted with some highlights and knock it back a bit. I found that technique from another artist I've watched. It was kind of cool. He kept knocking it back and bringing it out. And it just added and added more and more layers. And it was so cool. I don't know why more people don't use that technique. So here I'm adding some red because I wanted to have an accent color. And this worked out really well because I was able to add highlights to the red. Normally when you add white to red, you get pink, which is not really cool. So I didn't add a whole bunch of white because I didn't want it to look pink. But it came out fantastic. I just love the way this came out. Now I'm adding bubbles. I'm making circles, adding some white highlights, and the bubbles just float in the middle of the air. And it looks like he's just yelling and screaming and throwing crap up. What a neat picture. Don't you want to hang this in your living room for your kids and your parents and your grandma to see? You know what? That's what I did. This picture is hanging right now in my living room, and it is awesome. So here I'm signing my name, and that was me 2 years ago. I still have that same hat. And here, take a look at that picture. Isn't that just cool? I would sell this picture to you for $500,000. Just make me an offer.